Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today, as you can see from the title, we're back with a fun episode today. We are celebrating our birthday. Woo! And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, we need to insert some, party fanfare sounds here.
Yes. So we are now, how old, Sarah, T and you?
We are 2 years old, which is insane. Yeah, we started in 2023, which is just bonkers. It feels like we have had TV and Us for both so much longer than that and so much shorter than that, all at the same time.
Yeah, it's because we've covered so many things that it feels like we've done so much with this show. This is our first birthday episode for TNU, which is very exciting. We are just getting to celebrate and reflect on the journey of TNU and just all of the year of TV that we've gotten to watch. So that will all come later. But I think maybe we start with the origin story for TV and Us, because I'm not sure if we've shared it. We might have mentioned it in bits and pieces, maybe on Movies and Us. By the way, we have another show called Movies and Us. Go check that out. But I think the origin story for TV and Us and then what it has evolved and grown into is just kind of comical. It's very us.
Yes, it is. So I don't know how much context to give. I am I always give too much context, so this might be more information than we need.
I love it.
But we had Movies and Us. It was formerly known as the Strategic Whimsy Experiment. And we realized that name, Strategic Whimsy, didn't really have anything to do with movies. It was so much fun for that, right? It was so much fun for that season and really embodied what we were trying to do, trying to have just fun and enjoyment and try not to plan too much. But we realized that if we wanted to make this podcast into something bigger, that name wasn't going to allow for growth. So we started brainstorming new names, new branding for that podcast, and eventually landed on Movies and Us. And in that whole conversation, we were also wondering about scalability and the idea of potentially adding additional shows in the future. And in all of that conversation, it was so great. It was so much fun to brainstorm all of the things. We had 30 something names that we brainstormed before we landed on Movies and Us. And as all of that was going on, we learned that Succession season 4 was coming out. And we both loved Succession. I binged the first few seasons way too quickly. And then I think I talked about it so much that Jen just had to check it out. I would not stop talking about Succession. And so when we learned that Succession season 4 was coming out and we were doing all of this rebrand with Movies and Us, we were like, well, what if, this is crazy talk, but what if we got a whole second show and it was about TV and we could start with Succession season 4? And that's what we did.
There's no greater set of words that start a sentence that, wouldn't it be funny if? Wouldn't it be so crazy if? And that's how this began. Or wouldn't it be so funny if we started a whole nother show about TV?
Why not?
And I think what's also kind of interesting about how it all panned out is that we were planning for this rebrand for Movies and Us over on that show, and we were going to align it to our Movies and Us birthday, which I think it was our 5 or 6 year birthday. I don't remember, but it was our birthday that was supposed to be in August, and we were having this conversation in February, March, right? So we're we've got 5 months. We can plan a whole rollout. We've got time, and then Succession season 4 is set to come out in April. So it is now the end of February, beginning of March. And we're well, let's rebrand our whole other show, do the whole launch plan and social strategy for that. And then also let's plan a whole nother show while we're at it in the span of about like 6 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. So that was really funny too, because we knew it was right, but we hustled and grinded to make it happen and brought that vision to life. So that we were working on some fast timelines too, which is really funny.
Yeah, I don't think that we talk about this very often on either of our shows, but if you're into the Enneagram, we are both Enneagram 3s. And this whole rebrand and this whole madness of, a truncated launch schedule was just so typical of our threeness and just needing to achieve and like wanting to accomplish all of these things. And it was so funny to like, oh, are we being unhealthy right now? Probably. But honestly, we're having fun. So we're going to do it.
And that was the big thing too, is just we were so excited. And I think so much of that energy and excitement and the vision and feeling like there was this really perfect window of opportunity to get to review this show that we both loved and to do it for the final season and just all the conversation that we would get to have around it and put that content out and connect with other people on it. The vision for that was so great that we were willing to put in the work and effort to make it happen because we were so inspired. We were so excited.
The other thing that we often chuckle about with TVNS is when we were initially planning, because we know ourselves and we know our tendency to try and take on too much, we'll be like, okay, like what is our bandwidth? And trying to have those conversations to make sure that we're doing things that we enjoy, but not overwhelming us with too much of a fun thing. And we initially were talking about TVNS as this, like, every once in a while, maybe like once a quarter or every few months we would do a new episode of
like
TV.
3-ish year, maybe.
Yeah, that did not happen because we are about to release in the coming weeks, I think, our 13th season. So that's a lot of TV that we have reviewed in 2 years.
Yeah, if you do the math, divide
It's a
that by
lot.
2. That's how many we've done in a year. That's actually kind of insane. Every time I think about it, I do think it's wild how much we cover because there's just so much, so many hours of content that we've consumed, let alone time we've spent talking about it in a year. So it's pretty insane, but we've had the most fun doing it along the way. So worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you everybody for listening and following along on our journey, engaging with us on social media, all of the guests that we've been able to have on over, the course of these 2 years. Like, it has been really great to be able to have these conversations about TV and exploring all of these different characters and worlds. And we are so pleased and so grateful to be able to be doing this.
Yeah, it's been so fun, so meaningful, and I think really neat to see the way that there's so much longevity and conversation that people get to have around shows and to kind of journey with the character together with people online or people that are listening or even like just people in our lives that are watching some of the same shows that we're getting to review. That has been so meaningful and such a different audience base and a group of people that I think are really passionate about TV too, that we've gotten to explore and connect with a little bit more. So I think that's been really fun. It's just seeing the way that the way we comment and talk about TV looks so different from sometimes the way we talk about movies. There's obviously so much that is similar, but when we think about storytelling structure and pacing, it's been really neat to have this other format to get to talk about and review together too. So that's been really like neat to see the way that both you and I, our minds have been able to absorb and take in TV and all of our thoughts and comments about what makes great TV work versus not work in different ways than we do with movies. So that's been really fun too. It's just a totally different medium and structure and art form that we're getting to ingest in and have it shape us.
And it's been so fun to just view TV through a different lens too, and really appreciate it. I feel like now I'm watching things more analytically than maybe I had before, and am less of a maybe passive viewer than I had been before. And it's also fun being able to have these weekly check-ins about a show and talking about things, week after week after week. You're able to piece things together and pull things out of the show that you might not otherwise if you're just like either binging through or just kind of watching it by yourself. So I think it's so fun to be able to have these conversations and being able to just glean so much more from these really awesome shows that we've been able to watch together.
Absolutely. And I think it's so interesting that we started this with not Severance, but Succession season 4, because great art just begs to be talked about, Maybe it was a Freudian slip that I mentioned Severance too, because that's a show that begs to be talked about with people. And we felt that way with movies all these years, obviously, but it's so fun to see the way that like shows also just beg to be talked about. You're like, that when that character did that, and oh my gosh, that final moment at the end of the episode, there's just so much conversation to be had. And it's been fun to get to do that. And so Succession season 4, obviously so much happens. That's a juicy season of television, begs to be talked about. And it's been so neat to see the way that we've covered so many shows that have fit the bill in that way. Just there's so much. We often have to cut ourselves off at the end of our discussions to start giving out some TVNS awards, because there's just so many plot points that happen within one episode, one 45-minute to an hour episode that we could talk for hours about. So that's been really fun to see too, is just getting to soak in and really take in the meatiness of a single episode of television and how much there is to discuss and tease apart together.
Yeah. And I think it's also just a testament to how much great TV is being released right now. It's just a treasure trove to try and choose from. And honestly, that's one of the hardest things about this show, is how do we pick just one show to review at a time? My watch list right now is so long because there's so many other really good shows that are out. And that's just a great problem for us to have, of like, okay, what are we the most excited to watch next? Or what do we think is going to be the most interesting for us to really dive into? And there's always so many great options to choose from.
Yeah, I have a daily funeral for all the things that I don't get to watch.
That's fair. There's a lot.
And I keep getting more recommendations, from like the internet or from people in your life that are like, oh my gosh, you should watch Silo. It's so good. And I'm like, that's another 10 hours of my life that I need to take away from like all of the other shows that need to be watched. So yeah, the amount of great content out there just means that we're getting to feast constantly at a Vegas buffet of great storytelling. So it's a great problem for us to have.
Yeah. Love to see it.
Yep. All right. Well, speaking of some great content that's getting released and just a treasure trove, maybe we can share a rundown of all of the things that we've gotten to cover in the last year. So we're just scoping this to the last year of TV and Us, and we're going to share some of our favorite episodes of television, just some standout ones that we've gotten to talk about and watch over the last year of TV and Us. And then we've got a final little section that will come after that with some TV and Us birthday awards, but more on that later. We're first going to start with just some of the standout episodes of TV that we've gotten to talk about. So Sarah, let's list off all of the things we've watched in the past year and just bask in the insanity of this list.
Yeah, it's a lot. I should have added up like the number of episodes and the number of hours, but I didn't do that because that's too much work and too much math. But just imagine for yourselves. So here are all of the seasons that we have reviewed in the last year. Okay, The Bear, Season 2 and Season 3, Supercell, Season 1, Severance, Season 1, The Last of Us, Season 1, Dune Prophecy, Season 1, and then finally, Severance, Season 2.
Woo!
That is 7 seasons of TV that we have reviewed in the last year.
Of television. Wow.
It's insane.
Wow. Yeah. I'm like, it's funny because I am like seeing my past year through the lens of these movies. I'm like, oh, I remember what it was like reviewing like Supercell over the summer and it was hot outside. You know what I mean? Like it's so aligned to events and chunks of the last year hearing that list. That's neat. So much great television in that list. Iconic shows. Iconic shows.
Yeah.
Some that I've forgotten too. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, we did Dune Prophecy. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, we didn't do that too long ago, but I also didn't really remember that one well.
Yeah, it's okay. We've made more brain space for us to take in with things. That one doesn't.
Honestly, we needed that brain space for Severance.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's why.
the big splashy journey that we went on with Severance really made Dune Prophecy feel like ages ago. Truly,
yes,
it was only a couple weeks ago though. That's wild. Okay, well, we are going to share each 3 of our standout episodes from this corpus of television that Sarah just listed off for all of the things that we've reviewed in past year. And let's go one by one. So we'll each share one and go down our list. Our lists are not in any particular order, at least mine isn't. But Sarah, do you want to share the first standout episode that you're bringing to the table that really was a favorite of yours? And this is specifically the episode of television, not necessarily a conversation about it, but just the episode of TV that we got to watch.
I guess we should also say that some of these might be spoilers. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a great.
So we'll say the show that it is, kind of the season, the episode, and if you haven't watched that episode and you don't want it spoiled, just skip ahead a little bit because we don't want to like spoil anything. We'll try not to be spoilery, but like this first one that I'm going to talk about, I don't know how to talk about it without giving some spoilers, so
I love that. That's very wise.
Just tread lightly.
Yes. Just use the like little button on your screen that's like plus 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And maybe
just
tap that a couple times.
A few times.
Yeah, a couple times. Okay.
Okay, so my first one that I want to bring to the table is The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 5.
Oh my gosh, that's my first one too.
Yes! Oh, heck yeah.
Wow.
Go team!
Okay. Yeah, tell me all of your thoughts about this one, why this one stood out to you.
To me, this is such highlight of what is a very good season of television. To me, this was like the pinnacle for me. I loved this episode so much. It is this wonderful culmination of action and danger and all of these things and exploring this world. But we also see the emotional buildup in both Ellie and Joel. And that final fight at the end is just incredible. And watching Ellie, we learn so much about her character in that one scene as she's just doing her thing and trying to just protect the people that she cares about. And you also learn so much about Joel while he is separate from the group. You know, for the first 4 episodes, he had been the one that's kind of in control and in charge, and he is the protector, and he is taking the lead and all of this stuff. And in this episode, he cannot do this. And so he just has to sit there and watch and try and help from the sidelines as best he can and really follow Ellie's lead. And it's just such a cool moment. That final scene is just incredible, of watching them communicate and respond to each other without having to say any words or anything. And they're just in sync with one another and also terrified for the other at the same time. And then you also learn more about the bad guys and their backstory, and that all integrates in so well too. Like there's just so much in that episode that works so well. And I was just on the edge of my seat. I loved that episode so much. The writing is incredible on every level. So yeah, The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 5 totally worked for me.
Yeah. My gosh, this one is absolutely incredible. I remember feeling breathless at the end of this episode, and also my heart got ripped out of my chest. And it's just now throbbing on the table as it's getting shattered because of that ending of this episode. We just experienced survival with our crew of 4, and I think that builds up over the course of the season, the first 4 episodes of feeling the isolation that Joel and Ellie have been experiencing, and to finally feel like, oh my gosh, there's these 2 other people that get to be part of their team, and there's a genuine trust that they've built because of everything they've been through over the course of this episode. It felt like such a relief, and then it gets all ripped out of your hands. And without spoiling too much of that ending, because it is worth really just experiencing fully, but it's so tragic, but also so indicative of like the world of The Last of Us, and just the way that human connection is rare, few and far between, but when it happens, it's really beautiful, but also cannot always last long. So I just think that this episode has the breathless action, but also this heart-wrenching emotional moments for the characters, and it's all woven together and paced perfectly. I remember thinking about how this episode alone feels like it could be a standalone short film. You know, there's a whole journey that we go on from the beginning of the episode to the end, and just how efficient and quickly this one episode is able to get us to buy into these characters and the relationship together is really impressive. Like I looked this up again because I wanted to make sure it was correct, but they meet officially have a conversation with Henry and Sam at the start of episode 5. They technically meet them at the end of episode 4 when they wake up and they see cute little Sam standing there with a gun pointed at them, but they don't actually form and begin the relationship until the beginning of this episode. And so just the amount of time it takes for them to so quickly build trust is so impressive. And then obviously the whole ending of the episode is a whole tragic thing, and but so good. That's what we want from TV, is this whole arc self-contained within this one episode. So when I think about the last year, this one came to mind as such a strong one, and we absolutely gushed about this episode when we talked about it too.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, amazing. All right, what's your next one?
My next one is Supercell, Season 1, Episode 1.
Nice. So good. Tell me why.
Yeah, I really loved Supercell. And we went into it not really knowing much about the show. We had just seen people posting online that they had really been enjoying it. And we were like, okay, well, we'll watch this. And I knew that I wanted to pick an episode of Supercell, and I struggled to decide which one. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with the pilot, especially because of that opening. The opening scene, just wow. It is a punch in the face. It is a way to get your attention. It is so jarring and violent, but like in a good and purposeful way. And you know from the jump that this show is not playing, and this show is not going to censor itself or try and tone down anything that it's trying to say. It is going to tell you what it is going to tell you. And it is going to be loud and in your face about it. And I loved that. And the pilot does such a great job of setting up all of these different characters, setting up the world, which is just a really cool world that is imagined in Supercell. And so for me, just everything about that worked, and I needed to know more. From the very beginning of that episode, I was invested, and I had to know what happened to these characters.
Which is exactly what the first episode of any great season of television needs to do, is just to draw you in and for you to lean in and be like, what is happening here? I remember that episode also did such a great job setting up the characters in their first interactions that we get to see them have in the world. I feel like we just got to learn so much about each of the 6 individuals. 5? 6. I think there's 6. Anyway, just such efficient character development too, to understand who they were and what they were about, and then setting up the journey that they're going to go on over the next 6 seasons. So yeah, that was That was a great choice.
We loved it. We also loved Supercell, so
We did. I remember
go
the
watch
weeks.
that show if you haven't. Go listen to our episodes on it. We had a blast with that.
It's one that more people need to see too. I remember in the weeks at the end of the summer in August leading into the fall, I was just evangelizing Supercell. Have you seen Supercell? You really need to watch Supercell. It's on Netflix.
Right?
You can watch it. It's easy. You have Netflix.
Yeah, I was doing the same. People were probably so sick of me talking about this show, but it's so good. So please go watch Supercell if you haven't already.
And an incredible way to subvert so many of the superhero genre expectations. So that whole craze was a whole era that we lived through over the past 10 to 15 years. Here's a fascinating way that they're bringing so much meaning and purpose and advocacy with such a well-known genre and type of content. So that alone is really fascinating.
Absolutely. Okay, Jen, what is your second episode that you want to shout out?
So I went with The Bear Season 2, Episode 6. This is the Fishes episode.
Oh, yes. So good.
Yep. This is the episode of The Bear Season 2 where they have a flashback to Christmas dinner with the family. And it's chaotic. Is the best word to describe it. But we also get to see so much of the roots of what makes each of the characters the way that they are in the present. And it's just the overlapping dialogue throughout the entire course of the episode was so well done. Just the constant conversation and the sound editing was really impressive. It's a hilarious episode. It's so funny as you hear all these side conversations and small comments and you're trying to catch each of them and taking the time to crack up at every single one of them, but also ends with a bang. And I'll leave it at that. So yeah, this episode I think is so important for the arc of the season in general, but also just a really well executed episode of television. So yeah, the Fishes episode.
This is such a great choice. Oh my gosh. Because the bear is so overwhelming so much of the time. And then you watch the Fishes episode, which is even more overwhelming than the bear's baseline of stress. Oh man, it's so effective in the way that it's done. The acting in that episode is incredible. The writing is just so great. And like you mentioned, the sound editing and the sound design does so much to make you feel like you are in that house with all of these people as they are having all of these arguments and conversations. And I love that you picked this episode because it's so pivotal for helping us understand why these characters are the way that they are. And I feel like this is how you use a flashback episode. I feel like a lot of times flashbacks aren't necessary and they're overused, but in this case, it's absolutely necessary. And it shows us so much, gives us historical context for the things that we've seen, and it helps set up the things that we haven't yet seen. It's such a good episode.
Yeah, it's so significant. And the placement in the season is genius. We've gotten enough time to see the kind of high points and low points of our characters over the course of the previous 5 episodes. But then there's so much added emotional stakes for everything that happens over the course of the rest of the season in the ones that follow this episode. So just the placement too is kind of perfect. So well done. Okay, what is your third choice?
Okay, so my third choice is, I just love this episode. It is also from The Bear, Season 2, but it is Episode 4, aka the Marcus episode.
I know it.
You did know it.
Yep. When you said The Bear, I was like, it's definitely going to be the Marcus one.
It has to be.
Loved this one so much.
I do.
Okay, tell me why.
I do. I love it with my whole heart.
Yep.
I think it's kind of like the antithesis of the Fishes episode, which is really funny. But I love it for so many of the same reasons as Fishes is so good. This episode, I think, is also perfectly placed in the season because we've spent so many episodes just in the chaos of the kitchen. And like, as they're trying to figure out this restaurant business, and things are just insane, things are not going well. And then we get this episode that almost feels like respite. And we get to go to Copenhagen with Marcus. And in so many ways, Marcus as a character is a refuge for so many of the other characters and for us as the audience. And I love that he gets his whole episode. And it's just so wonderful to be with Marcus. And there's so much emotional depth in it too, and we learn so much about him and what drives him and what has made him the way that he is. We learn more about his care for his mom and all of that. And all of that is being done at the same time with this like fire suppression test, and all of that is going on. And we will like randomly go back with our crew and see the madness, and then we'll come back to the safety of Marcus while he's on his little houseboat. And so I love so much about this episode. And one of my other favorite things about this episode is the music. The bear is consistently so good in the music that it chooses. And I feel like that is just highlighted in this episode. Each song is perfectly picked. And it's one that I just want to live in this episode, honestly. Like it makes my heart so happy. Oh, I love it so much. It's an excellent episode of TV.
That is such a great choice. And I'm so pleased this is on your collection of 3 that you brought. Yeah, it's so neat because the way that this episode is structured and how it feels and how it's presented, all the cinematography is so Marcus. Like if there could be an episode of television that encompasses the aura and personality of a character, this episode does that for Marcus and just does him so much justice and kind of brings out all of the most beautiful parts of what makes Marcus Marcus, which is just so fascinating to see the way that it does that. So this and so unique, I think, in the context of the larger landscape of the bear, and who Marcus is in context of the team is so representative here. He is that safe place, that haven of calm, this tenderness and sweetness that he brings to this chaotic crew is just so necessary and essential for helping the team stay so grounded and have a feeling of peace when they need it most, and just a safe place to land. And this episode encompasses all of that through everything that you mentioned, the music, the cinematography, the pacing. It's all there. And just, I love those little moments and shots where we see Marcus just wandering through the city and just taking in the simple beauties of the world. And it's just so him. It's so good.
Marcus is great. We love
so
Marcus.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, Jen. So what is your third and final standout episode?
My third and final standout episode is one that my heart just loves so much. It's season 2, episode 7. This is the Forks episode.
Oh, yes. You did love this episode. Oh my gosh. Okay, yes. Go off. Please share more.
Yeah, it's very similar to your Marcus choice, which is Marcus episode choice, which is this is the Richie episode. This is the one where Richie is kicking and screaming and he's lost and he's sent off by Carmi to Olivia Colman's restaurant and he's mad about it and feeling really just bitter and lost and underappreciated by this team and really looking for purpose. And he just goes on such a beautiful arc over the course of this episode of really seeing his giftings and discovering them and being in an environment that is allowing the freedom and space for him to discover those things. But he's also learning what it looks like to be part of a team and to show up at his best self and like really try and apply himself and care deeply about something. And this Forks episode just kicks off such an incredible trajectory for Richie after the rest of the season, so all of the episodes that follow. And for so long over the course of The Bear season 1 especially, but then very much in season 2 leading up to this episode, we just see Richie really lost and looking for purpose. He's just going through it with life and just being a butt about it a lot of the times. But also there's such a tenderness and a care for people that he has. And when he's steeped in this environment that Carmi has so wisely seen and understood that he needs to go to, he just gets to blossom and flourish after this episode. So this episode is pivotal because of where it takes Richie's character in general, but I think it's just also like a really great episode with all of these little details that are woven in. So at the beginning, he's told to have to like dry like thousands of forks, and we see the way that those little details are used later on to create those setups and payoffs. So I loved this episode so much, and I think it's just a meditation on like the nature of the human existence, looking for and desiring to find purpose and to contribute to something greater than yourself, but also like the value of being in a place that can see your giftings and draw them out, and for you to step into all of that. It's just really beautiful. So the Forks episode really tugged on all of my heartstrings. I loved this character already, and I loved this whole episode that we got to see him really blossom.
Oh, it's such a good choice. It's such a great episode of TV. And you really loved Richie just so much. And he just gets better and better over the course of the show. Oh. So this is such a pivotal episode. And one of the great things that I love about this episode in particular is it's such a window into how Richie thinks and how he processes information. And just like the Marcus episode, you're very steeped in who Marcus is, and all of the cinematography and music choices fit Marcus. Same thing is true with the Forks episode for Richie. And I love that the episode starts out almost like a horror movie because he doesn't want to be there. And then when he has to like run and go get the pizza or whatever, it's like he's an 80s like action hero. Like everything about it just steeps you into Richie's world and how he sees the world. And it's also just so fun to see people pour into him as well, like you said, and to see the growth of Richie. I mean, over the seasons, it's incredible, but even in this one episode, he grows so much. And it's so heartwarming to see.
Yeah. And all of those tonal beats and shiftings that happen over the course of this episode makes it so dynamic, which is so Richie too. Yeah, we go from horror movie to like he's suiting up and he's in like a spy movie, and then he becomes a superhero, an action hero, and then by the end we get this really tender moment with the one and only Olivia Colman, and obviously she's just dropping straight wisdom. So it tonally hits every beat and ends with such tenderness. So it's so fun. All of this talk about the Bear is getting me so excited for the new season that's coming soon. Oh, right? It'll be thrilling. Yeah.
I think it's also just a reminder of how good season 2 of The Bear was. Like, man, obviously I was always going to choose the Marcus episode, but I could make a case for probably, the 2 that you picked, maybe one other episode. Like, so many of those season 2 episodes are so incredible. Yep. And man, we were really spoiled with The Bear season 2 in particular.
Very much so. I was looking at my collection of 3 and I was like, well, I've got The Last of Us and then I have 2 episodes from The Bear season 2. Like, do I need to diversify this? And then I was like, you know what? These are the ones that I love. These are the ones that came to mind first. And I stand by these choices. So yeah, 2 out of my 3 were from that one season of television. So good.
And it's a great choice. Like, And the other thing about Fishes and Forks, they're one right after the other. I think is also a really interesting thing. Like The Bear season 2, I'm not going to belabor the point, but it's so good and it's so strategic in the way that the season is constructed as well. So we just have this really emotional, just bonkers episode with the Fishes, and then we go straight into the Richie episode with Forks, and
it's hopeful.
It just works. And that is the order that those episodes needed to come in, because we understand so much more about Richie now coming out of Fishes. And Forks just helps him like bloom and blossom as a character even more.
Yeah. And also, like, the understanding that the show creators have to know that we needed something like Forks that is hopeful and showcases characters that are growing. Because in the Fishes episode, every character is operating at the most unhealthy version of themselves, you know? And to follow that up with, like, while that's true, and that is part of that story and part of the past for these people, there is growth to be had. There's flourishing to be had. And here's the beginnings of it with Richie. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we love to see it.
We do. We really do. We're here for it. Okay. Well, what a great collection of 6 episodes of TV that, well, I guess no, we have 5. We have 5 because we share one.
We do.
We have
That's
5.
really funny, though. We have 5 episodes, and 3 of them are from season 2 of The Bear.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting.
Honestly, it feels right, though.
We
did great.
Yeah, as I was scrolling through, I was like, is there anything else that, like, would top these 2? Like, we could throw in another one from, a different show. Let's add some variety. And I was like, you know what? Stand by these choices. So here we are. Yeah, a great collection of 5. So good. Okay. Should we give out some birthday awards? So for context,
Ooh.
on every episode of TVNS, we have ended our episodes with the final section where we give out some TVNS awards for the episode. And we often name these awards fun, spritzy things because it's fun and exciting for us. But also they tend to align to a structure of one award for moments of dialogue, so constructions of words for whatever reason that are just an absolute banger. Where's another award that's often aligned to something or aspects about a character. And then finally, there's a third award that is aligned to a moment. So a huge moment that occurs, or for whatever reason. There's different like flavors to this, but a moment in the episode. So Sarah, we thought we'd do the same thing for our year of TVNS from the past year. Give out some birthday awards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is like high stakes awards because we're not just limited to a single episode like we are normally. This is 7 episodes of television, and we have to pick a character award, a word award, and then a moment award.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
We have some hard decisions to make here.
Yes, we do. So let's start out and follow the same structure order that we often do for TVNS awards and start out with our character. So favorite character from the past year of television that we've gotten to watch. Sarah, what is yours?
Okay, Jen, this is the one that I struggled with the most. Honestly, I'm just riffing right now because I'm still not sure who I'm going to choose. This is me being an agent of chaos. My list is, I think, 8 that I have on here. I know, it was hard. And so I think I'm just going to go with my gut because when we were initially discussing these, there was a name that immediately came to my mind. And I think we're just going to go with that one because I don't have a better option. So for my favorite character, I am choosing from the show Supercell. I'm choosing Sabrina.
Nice. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. What is it about Sabrina that really was the one that came to mind for you first?
She is just the best. She's great. I mean, it is this show about people discovering that they have superpowers. So Sabrina has some superpowers, which are so cool. And she is also just such an interesting character. She is very reserved, but is also very protective of the people that she loves. And she also has this really strong sense of justice and right and wrong. And she has devoted her whole life to like caring for people. And over the course of the season, she discovers this power that she has. And you see this transformation in her over the season as she begins to step into her own and doesn't feel this need to like shrink back or fit into a certain mold. And so I remember while watching the season just absolutely loving her character. I was always excited when we got a scene with Sabrina. So that's what we're going with.
I love it. I love it. She she's so neat because she embodies so many traits that often don't usually exist within one character, especially a female character. They're often like really badass and you get to root for that. Or they're a little bit more reserved and shy, but also have such like wisdom. But she can do it all, really. And she has all of that is brewing within her, and it comes out in different moments in different ways. And so she has the extreme amounts of tenderness and care, and it's sometimes shy and reserved. But then also I remember that moment where she puts one of the characters in his place, the one that's part of the gang. I forget his name, but he's being difficult, and she's like, you cannot be doing this, and knows when to put her foot down and say, like, we need to be together, like, get it together, you know what I mean? And so that comes out of her too. And I love getting to see that multidimensional way that a female character has been written too, because I think that sometimes, especially female characters, can get written and just so typecasted and fit into an archetype.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Sabrina's great.
She's so great.
Okay,
Can you rattle off a list of everything else? The other 7? Or do you want to?
Oh, the other 7.
Save those.
Very quickly. Milchick, Bert, Irving, my 3 faves from Severance, of course. Then we have Sabrina. And then we get into the bear, which is Tina, Marcus, Ibra, and Sid. So, but then I was like,
that's
okay,
like a half the cast.
Which they're so good, which I picked the Marcus episode. So I couldn't pick Marcus as the character. As much as I love Ibra, it couldn't be him. We just reviewed Severance, so that's some recency bias there. So, like, I wasn't maybe going to pick them. So then it really came down to Sabrina, Tina, and Sid.
Yeah.
Which are all great.
They're all so great. Honestly, you go with your gut. If Sabrina came to mind first, there's a reason why,
Yeah.
I often take that approach. Whatever came to mind first, there's something about that just helped you recall that first.
Exactly. Okay, so who is your pick?
My pick, to probably no surprise for anyone, is Richie.
Yes, your dude.
Yeah, this is a total heart choice. I love this dude. I think he is so relatable, and he's relatable because he is facing and processing through so much that I think every person experiences or has experienced in some way. But he's also so imperfect, which I really love. He's not an aspirational character in a lot of cases. Like, he sucks a lot, but it's also so human. And a lot of the times when he's being difficult, it's out of a place where he's searching, he's looking for purpose and meaning and to be seen and valued. And I feel like that is so universal for so many people on earth, that just like we're all figuring our shit out, and sometimes it comes out in really weird ways and we can be really difficult or really self-destructive sometimes. And yet he continues to try and do what he can to at least build towards something better. And he goes on a whole journey where he really comes into his own and is allowed space for his unique superpowers to get to be used. So he just is such a hopeful character as well. And I think because he's not aspirational and because he kind of sucks a lot, that his trajectory is therefore more inspiring, because he's started at the bottom and now we're here and he's running like front of house at the Bear. And I love characters that are like that. I think I have just a soft spot for characters that are like really difficult and easily can be hated, but have so much in them that is just waiting to be drawn out. So like Roman Roy comes to mind. I just have a soft spot for that one as well. So difficult, absolute worst. But also there's so much beauty in them that I think when in the right environments around the right people and other characters around them, like there's these moments of just such goodness, and I just have a soft spot for those characters. So Richie is that for me. And I just think that it's beautiful to see the way that like we can all find a little bit of ourselves in him in some way, or at least I think so.
I love how much you love Richie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's true.
Because I watched the first 2 seasons of The Bear before we recorded those episodes, and I did not like Richie. It really wasn't, I think, until the Forks episode, if I'm not mistaken, that I was like, oh, okay, I don't hate him anymore. He's fine. But definitely watching those seasons and talking about it with you has made me like Richie more. Like, you've definitely influenced me. I will never love Richie as much as you do, but he is much more endearing to me now.
We've accomplished the task, I
Yes.
suppose.
Yeah, you've convinced me.
Love it. Even just a hair, I'll take it. I'll
Yes.
take it, It went from like, you're the worst, you're absolutely like rowing in the opposite direction as Team Richie to like, okay, I can see how you've got some goodness in you. That's all we need. That's all. I'll
Yep.
take it. I'll take it. Okay, our next birthday award to give out for this past year of television is moment. So a standout moment from the past year of TV moments that we've gotten to experience. And we've gotten to experience a lot of big, splashy, explosive ones and also really quiet, more meaningful ones as well. So there's a whole set of ways you can interpret this award. Sarah, what's your choice?
Yeah, I definitely went big moment. And this is also from The Bear, season 2.
Wow.
But I'm choosing the moment in episode 10 where Carmy self-destructs while trapped in the walk-in.
It's so tragic. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah. Because and what makes that moment so great is that there's so much like good that the team is doing outside and he just can't be a part of it. Yeah.
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 So
What is it about that moment that really made it a standout for you?
No, I think it's so much. It feels like the culmination of this entire season because Carmy he is trying to do things differently. He's trying to move past family trauma. He's trying to find joy and figure out how to be a healthy person. And then on this night that is supposed to be this achievement, this big thing that he's been working toward, he is trapped in the walk-in. And it is also his fault because he never called the dude to fix the walk-in. Yeah. and you just see him spiral. And so I think from a storytelling and from a character perspective, that is such a pivotal moment, and it's such a tragic moment too, because we've been rooting for Carmy. We want to see him be healthy and whole. We want him to experience joy, all of these things. And he is just self-destructing. And then that's perfectly juxtaposed to, like you said, the team doing great. And that happens and they are able to pivot and be successful. And so it's this juxtaposition that I find so interesting and is such a great way to end a season, great setup for another season, and it's such an important moment in the story of the bear that is still being written. And yeah, it's such a standout to me.
This is such a great choice. It's because there's so many mixed emotions happening all at once with Carmy. Honestly, part of it is like we're so proud of this team that he is such a center of gravity for them for so long. And even when he's not there, they can do it. They've grown, they've risen to the occasion, and there's like a feeling of excitement about that. But then also you see this character that we've been so invested into just absolutely devolving into chaos, and all of his unhealthy sides are coming out. He's just drowning in self-blame and guilt, but then lashing out. I think there was that whole fallout with Claire that happens in that episode too. And so he's like lashing out at Richie too. There's just so much that he is self-destructing in literally every possible way, both in the tactical way of not being able to be there for the team, but then also just more importantly, the relationships that he is just severing and has to begin to rebuild at the beginning of the next season.
Yeah. And I think also where season 3 starts is also really interesting given that context of Carmy being like physically isolated. And then season 3 starts with him still isolating himself and trying to do things his own way and trying to retake control after he was so out of control in that moment in the walk-in. So it's just, it's such an important moment. It's so well done. Just, wow. That one'll stick with you and also punch you in the heart, which the bear is so good at doing.
I remember in that episode too, just feeling how thick the walls and door of that fridge was that he was stuck in. Like, you feel just the way that there is such distance and barrier between him and the rest of the world. And it's like dark, and like there's this blue light in there too. That it's just some genius like vibe execution and atmospheric execution too on the physical space that is representative of the emotional space that he's in too. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Great choice.
It's so smart. Okay, so what is your standout moment?
My standout moment came to me quickly as well, and it's Supercell opening scene.
Yes.
The first like 7 minutes or 5 minutes of that episode 1 is electric. And I think what's great is now, obviously it was electric at the beginning watching it when we were reviewing episode 1, but now knowing the trajectory of the rest of the season, and especially where the season ends, it's such a stake in the ground and an exclamation point that the show makes from the very beginning of what kind of show that it is, and its boldness and its fearlessness to go there, to go to those places that are difficult and spicy and are going to shed light on these very real realities of our current societal fabric. And it's fearless. It's unafraid to do it. And it's unafraid to show you these very harsh realities, but to do it in a way that is stylized and set in the world of sci-fi and superheroes that is so familiar to us. So I loved everything about that opening scene. And I just remember the lighting and the blood like being dragged across the floor, and just this feeling of foreboding in this like underground bunker. It was all just so atmospheric, but also just starts out with such a bang. And it kind of is like this like wake up call of like, no, you're going to pay attention to this show. Like, you're not just going to half-ass this, you're not going to like watch this on a Tuesday night with your phone out. Like, we are demanding your attention, and I love it. And I think it's so indicative to see the way that they carry out that same energy and that same stance throughout the rest of the season. But man, they really hit you over the head at the beginning, and it's great. I love it.
Oh, yes. It's such an incredible moment. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we discussed that episode, you had mentioned something about like Scorsese, who is your dude, and the way that Scorsese kind of and his filmmaking style inspired that scene and how that was filmed.
Yes, that is right. That is right. Yeah, the kinetic way that the violence is shot, and kind of this visceral experience that is kind of fearless, I think is very Scorsese. And just some of the blocking of the way that it's carried out and how physical it is too, I think is also very Scorsese. So yeah, I think I remember reading somewhere that like the show's creators were really inspired by a lot of the way that Scorsese films his violence, and really getting you to like pay attention and like almost feel it in your body, in your physical body, as you're watching it unfold on screen. So, oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. And you feel that scene. Oh my gosh, it's such Supercell is not one of those shows that, like you said, you cannot watch this with your phone out. Like, this show demands your attention, and it is worthy of your attention. Yep. And I love it. Supercell is so good.
Yep. It's so great. Okay, our third birthday award category is words. So a memorable line of dialogue, or just a great line for whatever reason. Maybe it's a great comeback. Maybe it's really meaningful and wise. Maybe it's just a gut punch and tugs on all your heartstrings for whatever reason. A great line of dialogue. What's your choice?
My choice is from Severance, Season 2, Episode 9. Our guy, Mr. Milchek, says to Drummond, devour feculence.
That's my choice too.
Yes!
I love it.
So good.
I love it so much. Well, what's great too, I have the one line he says right after that as well, which is he then explains. He says, devour feculence. It means eat shit, Mr. Drummond, because he knows that Mr. Drummond might not really get it yet. So, like, for the sake of your pea-sized brain, Mr. Drummond, I'm going to have to explain this to you as well. It's so great. I do not trust your intelligence to know what I'm saying.
Ugh, it's such a good moment. It's a brilliant line for the entire season, actually the entire 2 seasons of Severance that we've reviewed. I have sung the praises of Tremel Tillman, and I will do it again here. He delivers those lines perfectly. They are so delightful and juicy because it's also on the back of Drummond trying to police Milchek's speech, and it's just a perfect screw you. It's the perfect way to say eat shit from Milchek. It's so satisfying at a character level. It's great performances. It's shot wonderfully. Like, it's such a great moment.
It's so classy, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's so Milchek. And also, just the amount that we've seen Milchek have to submit and yield and keep his head down over and over and over again leading up to this moment just made this feel really satisfying. Just so juicy and delicious because we've seen him have to just agree and take it and take it all from the Lumen Corporation. And now he's like, nah, actually, I'm going to roast you and throw it in your face and give you the biggest F you in the classiest way known to man. So it's really satisfying. I love the close-up shot of him as he delivers this line too. Just like right in on his face as he's just like stares him down straight in the eye. It's so good. My other candidate was going to be the monosyllabically line right before it.
Oh,
that was another great
yes.
Yeah.
That whole scene is just so brilliant.
Yeah. When you're having a rough day at work and you like need to keep your job, you know, and you can't do what Milchek does, but you like need to get the satisfaction of it. Just watch that scene on loop. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Live your fantasy with Milchek.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Man, what a fabulous collection of episodes as kind of whole units, all the way down to individual characters and moments and lines of dialogue that have been just so memorable and have really been the source of such joy and entertainment, but also have really shaped us and the way we see the world, the way we see people, the way that we see our societal dynamics. Just we've covered so much ground in all of those different dimensions with all of these different shows. I love the diversity and the types of shows that we've gotten to review. We've gotten some sci-fi action. We've gotten some kind of like period-esque pieces with some of the Dune prophecy stuff of like going to these other worlds and being devoid of technology. We've just gotten a whole spread of different types of characters and locations and commentary on different parts of what it means to be human and also what our societal dynamics are looking like. So I really appreciate the spread and variety that we've had over the past year as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's so much meaning and so many layers to each of these shows. Like I'm sure we could rewatch all of them and discover new things and find deeper meaning and make connections that we hadn't seen before. So I love how layered and rich each of these shows are.
Yes, absolutely. And we have just a whole year of movies coming up too, which is just so exciting. So it's always great to reflect because it also builds anticipation for in a year from now. Who's going to be our favorite character? Like what episodes are we going to get to experience that just totally blow us out of the water. And I think that's going to be fun to get to see. So we're excited for the upcoming year of TV that we're going to get to experience.
Yep. Yeah. And what will await us, you know? We'll get a new season of The Bear. Yeah. Hopefully this summer. So we'll be back with that.
More of The Last of Us.
Who knows? Yeah, more of The Last of Us.
Who knows
what else though?
Yep. Yeah. So, this is our birthday episode. TV and Us is now 2 years old. We're so just grateful for everyone who has been along with us through all of the journeys between different shows and different seasons of television that we've gotten to experience. We're just so grateful for everyone who gets to be along the journey with us. We love seeing everyone's comments and theories and favorite characters that they're sharing online as well with us. So we're just grateful for getting to have this shared space where we get to come week after week and just yap about TV and moments and characters and lines of dialogue together. It's just so fun, and we're excited for what's to come. So we just want to thank all of you for being a part of our journey, and we hope you come along for all that awaits us in this upcoming year of TV and Us. So thank you for listening to this birthday episode of TV and Us and celebrating with us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us as we journey through so many seasons of television from the past year. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a review letting us know your favorite character, your favorite moment, or maybe your favorite episode from the past year of TV and Us seasons. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVNSPod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. We will be back soon for some more TV and Us content. So stay tuned, check our feed, or we're going to dive into some goodness coming up very soon, which will be great. So we're starting off a whole new journey with some characters that we know and love already. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.